The automatons have turned this valley into a fortress. Dozens of foes, reinforced bunkers, and landmines bar the way. To clear it, a Helldiver faces two distinct paths: boots on the ground, or a little help from orbit. Going in on foot is always a gamble. Every meter you push costs ammunition. And in these tight, walled spaces, a single missed enemy can easily back you against a wall you have no way of getting around. You become the target, fighting on the enemy's terms in a meat grinder of heavy armor and crossfire. But instead of fighting through the fortress, you can do something else. Let artillery pave the way. Throw the beacon, step back, and follow in as 15 shells push through 100 meters of hostile ground. You advance and finish off what survived while the shells keep moving forward. Keep clearing the path until there's nothing left in the way. That's the glory of the Orbital Walking Barrage. The Orbital Walking Barrage unlocks at level 10 for 4,000 requisition slips and fires 380mm rounds from your Class 6 series Super Destroyer. Each shell weighs 30 kilograms and travels at 400 meters per second. That's 2.4 megajoules on impact, 6 times the kinetic energy of a 120 round traveling at the same speed. 400 meters per second is subsonic, but the shells are large, heavy, and falling a long way. The energy comes from the mass, not the speed, and 30 kilograms moving at 400 meters per second carries enough force to collapse a fabricator foundation from the impact alone. But then that kinetic energy combines with the high explosive payload. The resulting blast kills or staggers everything within 12 meters with enough force to wipe a Hulk off the battlefield entirely. These are the same rounds used by the Orbital Precision Strike, the 380 Barrage, and the Sieve Explosive Artillery. 3,500 points of damage, including durable and anti-tank class penetration. The pattern is 5 salvos of 3 shells each. Each shell inside a salvo lands 1 second apart. When the last shell of a salvo hits, there's a quick 3-second pause. Then the next salvo opens roughly 25 meters further in the direction you threw the beacon. 5 salvos, 15 shells, and the barrage runs for 27 seconds and covers 100 meters of terrain. The beacon itself never moves. It stays at the point of impact, invisible on your map throughout, but it does not track where the shells are currently falling. And the beacon itself controls everything. Ideally, the barrage marches away from your position, away from wherever you were standing when the beacon left your hand. But crucially, your Super Destroyer will fire in whatever direction the beacon was moving. If you throw it at your feet, it'll fire straight forward. But toss it a fair distance and have it deflect off the side of a rock, and it will end up firing sideways instead. The Orbital Barrage will march in the direction the beacon was last traveling after the bounce, not the way you were facing. Our call-in time is 5.45 seconds, which drops a second with the targeting software upgrade. The same reduction it applies across every orbital. Cooldown is 240 seconds at base. That's 4 full minutes. Morale augmentation brings it down to 228. 0G breach loading cuts it down to 216. With everything installed, you land at about 205. Still well over 3 minutes, but a full half minute shorter than the default. 6 modules affect the stratagem, and they're the usuals. More guns adds a 6th salvo, which is important with this orbital in particular, because it adds 3 shells, 5 seconds, and 25 meters of extra reach. That extra distance often allows the barrage to destroy a second objective just out of the base range. Then there are the usual upgrades. Exploding shrapnel reduces the damage fall off at the blast edge, and high density explosives increases the radius by 10%. While not mandatory on their own, together these upgrades make each shell more effective. Overall, the Walking Barrage is ideal for static targets. Termited mega nests, automaton fortresses, illuminate warp ship encampments. dense concentrations of structures and defenders that no single stratagem can clear easily. A barrage routed through the length of a heavy outpost will take out fabricators, cannon turrets, mortar emplacements, and all the patrols between them. Not from any shell, but because 15 anti-tank rounds walking through a compound hits most things inside of it. And a strong demolition force needs direct hits destroy objectives outright, whether that's bug holes, fabricators, spore spewers, detector towers, stratagem jammers. If a shell lands on it, it's gone. And those stratagem jammers are one of the ideal targets. Since they block activation within 150 meters in general, throw the beacon just outside the jamming zone. Aim the marchline directly at the tower, and the shells will walk through the field and potentially destroy the jammer while you stand safely outside. Nothing else in the orbital lineup can even attempt this. It is the single most tactically significant thing the Walking Barrage brings that other stratagems can't replicate, even if it isn't guaranteed. It used to be a safer bet, it's less so now, but at the very least, you can weaken the stronghold before you go in, because you won't have any other backup once you're inside the zone. Against Terminids, the Walking Barrage earns its slot when there's a mega nest or a thick structure that needs clearing. The shells tear through hatcheries, spore spewers, and nesting structures with no trouble. Anything static in the corridor dies. The problem is that Terminid combat revolves around bug breaches. Fixed point spawning into your position, which is precisely what the walking line fails at. Against nests, it does serious work. Against breaches in the open, you may want to bring something else. Against automatons, this is where the stratagem belongs. Bot bases are dense, static, and built from things that need to be destroyed. Those fabricators, the cannon turrets, the hulks. Bot combat doesn't revolve around infinite spawn loops either, the way Terminid combat does. And once a base is gone, it stays gone. So running the Walking Barrage on a bot mission against a fortress and a jammer are two major problems handled from one stratagem slot. Against the Illuminate, performance depends on the mission. A barrage routed through an encampment can take out several grounded warp ships at once. The trouble is the voteless, perpetually arriving in numbers from ships you haven't cleared yet, converging on a point close to you that the walking line has already passed. On blitz missions against grounded warp ships, it's exactly the right tool. On standard patrol and extraction runs against voteless swarms, a horde denial stratagem performs more consistently. What the Walking Barrage can't do is adapt. Once the beacon is thrown, the line is fixed. The barrage walks where it walks, and enemies that move out from under it survive. The 240-second cooldown means every deployment has to count. There is no easy recovery. If the angle is wrong, if the range is off, that's 4 minutes of waiting for it to come back, and everything else is to cover for it. The orbital EMS strike is a standard recommendation, and it earns it. A cloud dropped ahead of the first salvo holds everything in place for the impending bombardment. The EMS mortar sentry makes a viable alternative. Drop it behind you before advancing, and it keeps anything approaching your position stunned without requiring you to time a second stratagem. For enemies the barrage misses, the FAF-14 Spear is a good option. It locks onto fabricators, hulks, tanks, and cannon turrets from up to 300 meters away, which is exactly the profile of armored target that usually can escape the barrage still functional. More importantly, it handles gunships, something the barrage cannot really touch. For the 4 minutes the barrage is on cooldown, you may need some help dealing with frequent hordes. The orbital Gatling barrage cycles 3 times in the Walking Barrage's window. The airburst cycles twice. Either maintains pressure on swarming foes without competing cooldowns. The Eagle cluster bomb specifically provides multiple charges, fast rearming, and it covers the horde problem between the Walking Barrage deployments. On bot missions, you can place an autocannon sentry on high ground, a cliff edge or rock formation above the base, and it'll handle devastators and incoming bot drops independently, while the barrage handles static buildings below. The last option worth mentioning is also one of the least obvious, which is to run 2 walking barrages staggered by a few seconds. It may be overkill, but this way anything that survives the first pass doesn't survive the second. This combination often works better than mixing in a 120 or a 380 at the same time. Super Earth calls that coordinated fire support. Most Helldivers just call it democracy. By letting the Super Destroyer take the brunt of the risk, you preserve your ammunition, your stims, and most importantly, your life. While there are millions of Helldivers out there willing to give their life for democracy, yours need not be among them. At least, not yet. Thank you all so much for watching. I know a few of you have been clamoring for the walking barrage, so I hope this scratched that itch for you. And thank you all for the kind words in the comments. I do read every single one of them. We have just 4 more orbitals to cover: the EMS, the smoke, the 380, and the laser. Which one should we cover next? Let me know down in the comments. As always though, help me out by leaving a like and subscribing if you haven't already. For now though, I think that's it. I'll see you next time.